On this episode, we demystify the difference between OT and callback. I hope.
Hopefully.
Atlas All Access starts now. Hannah Bryant, welcome back.
Oh, hey, howdy. How's it going?
Okay, so this came up not too long ago.
Yeah.
And it seems to rear its ugly head once every 6 months or so. And I thought, let's talk through some of the differences between OT and callback, and then like how, from a billing or from a pay standpoint, they differ.
Right. And I think it's changed within, I'd say, the last 5 years. Because before then, they were the same thing. Like you could bill. Didn't matter how many hours you were working.
Right.
You could still bill for that OT or callback.
Callback even on call has changed in the last 5 years,
yeah.
right? I mean, it honestly used to be, I'm putting you on call. Here's a pager.
Right.
Right. And if you didn't have a pager, you weren't really on call.
That tells you how long Rich has been doing this, because now they just have the nurse's cell phone number.
Right, exactly. So, no, they would like give you the pager. Like, here's the cath lab pager, and we'll page you.
They still do that.
I'm
Some
sure
units do.
I'm sure they probably do. But like that was the delineation was, did you have a pager? No. Well, then you weren't on call.
Right. I think that's more specialty specific too. Like
maybe.
that still applies OR cath lab. Maybe not like on a ICU or telefloor.
Sure.
Then they're just calling your cell phone, right?
Well, see, that never happened in ICU before, ever. You were never put on call.
Yeah, they don't want to pay for it. If they don't have the patient population, they don't want you there.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is happening now.
Yes, it is. And it's really, I would say, probably specific to the increase in VMS usage, only because they're trying to create uniform policies throughout all their contracts on the VMS side.
Sure.
And so in order to save the hospital money, they're going to say it's anything after 36 or 40. So if it's a regularly scheduled shift and they call you off or they put you on call and you come back in, you're going to get your hourly wage. And that's not us deciding it. That is the facility and contractually what that works.
Like written in the hospital contract or the VMS or the MSP contract that we sign, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the big thing too is like there's no legalities in it. No. I know that was one of the questions, like, oh, you have to treat it like overtime. No, because it's one of your 3 or 5 shifts a week. So it's what you were scheduled for contractually. They don't want to pay extra for what they've already guaranteed you.
Right.
And even with guaranteed hours, you're going to get your guaranteed hours before you're going to get that increase. And ultimately, if we're not billing, we can't pay you higher. And if this did come up, and not to get political, but other companies were saying, oh, we still pay it. To me, that says they have that much extra room in what their profit is to pay out that extra. Whereas other companies, when you're looking at that callback or overtime rate, they're giving you all of it minus the taxes. Right. So there's nothing left to give without them going into the red. So
because you're not billing for any of it, right? On that
not.
Side, you can't. If the contract says you can't.
Yep. And most of the time, that contract wordage is overtime is the same as callback. So if it's over 40 hours a week, you can call it callback. You can call it overtime. We're billing at a higher rate then, but it doesn't kick in until after that 40 hours. Interesting.
So what about scenarios where like the contract isn't specific about it, right? If there's, let's say it's a contract, it's our contract, right? And our contract isn't specific about that.
If it's our contract, it is going to be callback.
Okay.
Yep. So in ours, where we have a direct contract with the facility, we use our wordage, our contract that we've created, and it does separate overtime and callback. So if I am a nurse who is on call and comes back in, I have that 2-hour callback minimum, and I'm getting paid for 2 hours at my higher rate or whatever I actually work. In settings like a cath lab, where you work your 40 hours a week and then you get called back in, it's basically the same thing. Overtime and callback are getting closer to being the same thing.
Well, they're billed at the same rate generally, correct?
Yep,
and so
absolutely.
then it's generally, at least with us, I can't speak for everybody else, it's paid at the same rate too.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that was always the thing, is OT/callback was
Yeah.
always the same line item.
Yep.
on that, on at least on the hospital side, on the contract side for me.
And to me, it's I've learned this the hard way with travelers in the past, where there was some confusion about that contract wordage. It came back to bite us in the butt. So it's also having a conversation with that person about what that means before they're on assignment, so that these types of surprises don't happen. You know, hey, just so you know, the contract wordage with the facility says that anything over 40 is callback. Anything below that is going to go towards your guarantee or your scheduled guarantee.
Let's talk about guaranteed hours for a second then. Let's say you run into a situation where you have been guaranteed hours, but then there is callback on top of that.
Yeah.
How does that, I mean, how?
Then you're just getting your guaranteed 36 or 40 and your callback at your higher rate.
Okay.
But then let's say you're at a facility that does have a call-off policy. We can call you off 3 times in 13 weeks, right? So those canceled hours, if you are called off and called back in, it's just going to go towards, you know, let's say I was on call for 4 hours.
Sure.
That's going to go towards their call-off policy.
Okay.
But I come back, it's still at regular hours.
So call-off policy still applies.
Yep.
But then
And you don't get the increased rate for the callback.
even though it technically is, you're
Correct.
being called
it's a
back
regularly scheduled shift.
because you haven't reached that 36 or 40 yet.
Yes, and that's the big wordage I think there. It's a regular shift. They're not gonna give the extra money for a shift that you should have been there for anyway.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and this has been this isn't just we're us talking about it, right? This has been a conversation for quite some time.
Yeah.
There are a number of opinions out there written by the Department of Labor concerning this, like we've seen.
Right, and there was it's kind of a gray area and it's confusing because you look at, you know, you're looking at your neighbor next to you who's a staff nurse. Like that same policy may apply to them. They may get that higher rate, but they also don't have those restrictions like we're only going to do this to you 3 times. Like that could be happening to them weekly.
Sure.
And so that difference in their rate, which is probably not as much as a traveler's difference, is probably really important to their making sure they can pay their bills.
Absolutely. And who knows if they're a union or non-union
Right.
or whatever. We see that coming up more and more.
And that definitely factors into it as well. Any
Absolutely.
union heavy state or facility, you're going to see stricter regulations on what they classify as callback.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So are there any kind of restrictions, and without getting into state specifics at all, do certain states treat it differently than others, or is this kind of across the board the same?
Across the board.
Okay, so
Yep.
our favorite states that are fun to bill, California,
Yep.
doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily treat it any different.
Correct.
Okay.
There are states, the state-specific parts with wage there are come in at double time. So Colorado, California, that's where you see those state-specific differences, but callback, no.
So if you introducing double time or whatever isn't going to muddy the waters at all
No.
on that. Okay.
Nope. And they would just get their double time rate instead
Correct.
of that. Yeah,
Instead of
that callback rate.
I think that it clears up a lot for me, at least, because having been doing this for so long and seeing some of the things change throughout the years or whatever, I know, especially when I looked at certain scenarios out there, it really could have. You could see it really going either way. But when you really drill down and you look at the contract and you look at, you know, just kind of each scenario individually, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask your recruiter that question.
Right.
Like I know here specifically, we have access to see our contracts and pull up that exact wordage so I can make sure that I'm giving you information that's 100% accurate based on that contract. And keep in mind, it's going to vary contract to contract. What VMS they use. Is it a direct contract? Is it a, you know, like HCA? They just have like blanket statement on it.
Yeah, there's a very broad stroke on those, where some are very specific.
But if they are honoring callback, it's pretty consistent, the wordage, that it's a 2-hour minimum. So you know that if they are offering that callback rate, you are going to get paid for at least 2 hours.
Yep.
Yep.
And I don't think that has changed at all.
No.
Actually,
Nope.
that's been
That's
pretty
been pretty,
consistent.
yep.
So all right, so I hope that cleared up a little bit.
Just ask your
Maybe?
recruiter.
I think in
And
the
really
end
they
that's
should.
it.
And if maybe they don't know right off the bat, they can go to the person responsible for that hospital and get that information for you.
Or in the scenario that we just experienced, it's ask your fellow recruiters, right? I mean,
Right.
somebody else is going to have touched something like this somewhere along the way.
Maybe they learned the hard way like I did many years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you utilized
Right.
that
Right.
resource. You were utilized as a resource to help answer that question. So, and in the end, I believe we billed it and paid it correctly. So there you go. All right. So anytime you have a question, call Hannah. We'll put her phone number right down. I'm just kidding. We absolutely won't do that. But You're right. Call your recruiter,
Yep.
and they'll work together to find that answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
To do that. So Hannah, thank you so much. I'm glad
Thanks for having
you came on to help demystify the differences between OT and callback, which is virtually
good subject.
Yeah. So there you go. So
All right.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.